Today we're at Harvard University, where we have the pleasure of speaking with Reese Gardner and Spencer Carnes, the founders of a startup, Snap Growth Studios. If you guys want to introduce yourself for a moment, that would be great.
Yeah, my name is Vanessa Reese Gardner. Everybody calls me Reese. I'm a rising junior at Babson College, creative entrepreneur, artist, co-founder of Snap Growth Studios. And yeah, I like to create a lot, DJ, music, fashion, businesses. And me and Spencer met freshman year, and we've just been building things ever since. So I'm very glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Spencer. I'm a builder, definitely an entrepreneur, and a creator. A bit more on the technical side, and me and Reese balance each other really well. I'm a big perfectionist. We've been in Snap Growth Studios for about a year now. It's been a very tumultuous but fun journey, becoming more technical and also trying to have a social impact with AI, bridge the gap. Me and Reese have worked on a number of projects together, successful ventures in fashion, upcycling, things like that. And we just create, keep moving.
So speaking of that social impact that you mentioned with Snap Growth Studios, we were just going to start out with some questions about Snap Growth's work with underserved minority communities. So our first question would be, what goals do you guys have for using AI specifically to address challenges faced by minority communities?
The actual issue is not necessarily how we're going to use AI to address the challenges currently faced, but the challenges specifically that AI is going to create, or rather the challenges that exist that are going to be exacerbated significantly by the introduction of AI into the workforce and into the labor gap and the wage gap. Something large that we've noticed by studying socioeconomic systems in the greater Northeast area is that there's a massive gap in income, annual median income, and family net worth between racial groups, underserved areas, and that goes all the way back deep into education as well. For me personally, I grew up in a public school system and worked my way up through exams and stuff. I knew a lot of friends earlier on who didn't even know that exams existed, especially like the mini SAT that got me into a specialized magnet high school. A lot of the kids that did get into those schools had very expensive private tutoring. I was lucky enough to find a program that tutored me in the summer for free for underserved communities. That was what helped me pass that exam and get into an amazing high school with an amazing community. That's the kind of model I'd like to follow. AI is changing the definition of labor, and kind of automation and agentic workflows are really going to change how we view work and how large corporations look to hire and look to execute on work.
Yeah, and just to bounce off that as well, like Spencer said, we're at a place right now where there's already a very large existing gap between minority families and their non-minority counterparts. And we're at a point where the whole AI inflection point could even widen that gap wider and wider. There was a study done, I want to say by McKinsey, and they said if we keep going at the current rate that we are with just the AI implementation, and kind of like how the resources are divvied up, we could be looking at over a $40 billion increase in the social wealth gap per year. And so when you just think about numbers like that, you multiply that by 5 times 10, we're looking at hundreds of billions of dollars that, these minority communities are just falling and falling and falling, and then their non-minority counterparts are just getting raised up. So what we're trying to do is go into the middle schools and the high schools of these students and really give them the foundational skills, the knowledge, the use cases, so that when they get to an AI-centric workforce, they can not just survive, but thrive in that environment. So really just setting up the next generation of like minority change makers of the world.
When the question comes into play of where is the driving capital financial engine, we're looking at the transition in the wealth gap. So you've got a very large proportion of business owners who are baby boomers and transitioning out of their businesses, hoping to sell to a younger generation or just sell the business to anyone entirely. And they are usually ill-equipped to adapt to more efficient business models that involve a lot of automation, machine learning, and true artificial intelligence. So that's where we step in. We try to fill that gap for the business while also pivoting some of their capital in a direction where it will be leveraged to those underserved communities, right? We're having the largest wealth transfer in history with these generations. and it's up to us to direct that. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, sir.
So, what businesses like in minority communities do you think could best benefit, from it being like educated on how to leverage AI?
In terms of what minority communities explicitly, we just go for whatever wherever we can have the most tangible impact. Preferably for me, dense urban areas are ideal to target because I feel you can have a great impact in a very refined area without necessarily relying on a lot of transport. But we really work wherever we can, right, with our clients. We just met a new client who has a school out in Arizona. And if that's a working opportunity with, for example, he works with special education students. And that could be a massive gap, especially as accessibility is a major, major industry for automation technologies. So if we can leverage as much as we can to bridge that gap for them, then that's what we're going to do. So if we have an inroad there, we're going to pursue
That I was just watching a documentary and it was on disabled people using generative AI to create. There was a group of people that were disabled in wheelchairs and they were using Midjourney, just voice to text, text to image. And they were able to create something that they had never been able to create before because before then, you had to either paint, you had to draw, and then even after that, it's Photoshop, it's typing, it's opening up whole new complete doors for people that they hadn't even thought of before. So for me, when I had that light bulb moment when I was just typing into Dolly 2 and I was like, wow, I can do this. Like a lot of people are having similar moments. And it's just about taking that moment and then kind of like demystifying the hype around it and then really showing the people what they can do, the things that they might not even know about and the ways that they can use it to benefit them.
Yeah, I think that's a really amazing angle with how AI can help all sorts of different communities, especially differently able people. That's something that I think a lot of people would never think of or notice. So that's really great. And we were wondering if you guys could tell us maybe a bit more about Growth Studio, specifically what inspired its founding. What got you guys into this?
For sure. So we've always been kind of entrepreneurial people. When we were younger, I mean, when I was younger, I was reselling like rainbow loom bracelets and like sneakers, Supreme. And then I got into like vintage, like Spencer said. So we've always kind of had a natural passion for it. But the whole AI wave, we're both pretty technical people, just like realizing how important it is, the boom of the internet, the things that it allowed for people to do, the amount of money that was made off of that. So when this whole AI wave was coming, we recognize it as an amazing opportunity. So we're like staying up all night, studying the different potential outcomes of AI, how it's already being implemented, the layoffs that it was causing. We knew we needed to take advantage of this. And then there was an opportunity that came up where a friend of ours, our co-founder, Damari Johnson, was just like, hey, I'm trying to put a group together. It was a very loose founded group, but we knew we just wanted to create a consultancy of some sort that helped the people who needed it the most implement AI into their businesses and into their communities. So we aligned a lot on our larger goals. And then from there it was 7 guys on a Discord call figuring it out and asking what are we going to do and then solving the problem.
Yeah, it definitely took a while. It was kind of like melding a snowball together and
Yeah.
filling all the gaps. Not everyone works out. You got to come to terms with that. But yeah, neither of us actually just woke up one day and were like, we should just do an AI consultancy. And then eventually it moved away from really a consultancy. It became much more about a social impact and doing that, leveraging the automation for that. I think in terms of how you know when you're an entrepreneur or when you want to be an entrepreneur, you just do it. And then you either really, really hate working for someone else. Hate's a strong word, but I think a lot of people get tired of working for someone else. And that's kind of when you want to break out and then you try different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of jumping into it and going for it.
So, what are some of the core services that Snap Growth Studios offers to members of minority communities, and how does that utilize AI?
So one of the biggest things is just teaching for self-reliance, right? A lot of people have a large sense of overwhelming just fear because they don't understand the basics of what AI is as it was defined in the 80s. There's like true AI, where it's artificial intelligence that is doing long system two thinking, using multiple aspects, multiple task factors, and really coming up with a complex solution. using fuzzy outputs and inputs, just like a human would. But that really hasn't existed up until very, very recently. For the past 40 years, we've been developing large language models that give set outputs and can do individualized, very small tasks and just pull a data point. They haven't really been sifting through and doing complex things. So kind of addressing that at the start is one of the largest things with minority communities, because that's demystifying that black box. And that is one of the first things, because if you're too intimidated, you'll never even take the first step to leveraging it for your own good. If you want to kind of elaborate on that.
You summed it up very well.
And then sort of transitioning to more of the small to mid-sized business angle, because I know that a part of your business as well is targeting those types of communities groups. So what are some more specific challenges or common challenges that smaller or mid-sized businesses even would face that AI or the technology that SnapGrowth implements can help to solve?
So for small to medium-sized businesses, a lot of the times they don't have very expansive teams to do all the necessary things that really requires the growth that a lot of people are seeking. In the age that we're in right now, we've seen social media marketing become more and more prevalent, and just the amount of pure traffic, revenue, audience, awareness that you can gain from that is almost unlike anything we've seen before. So when businesses don't necessarily have the time or the people to sit down behind a computer and edit for 4, 5, 6 hours a day to put out maybe 3, 4 videos a week because they're just getting into it, right? And they may not necessarily know where to go to hire somebody. And if you do hire somebody to come onto your team in-house, it's a lot of money to pay somebody full salary. And if you don't have that, a lot of people are like, okay, what do we do now? So what AI can do is not only can it help, for example, this podcast, there's now tools that you can put this full form video into it and have it chopped up into 10 to 20 different clips that would probably take to go through a whole video and to make those clips and to add the captions. That's at least taking somebody 5 hours, 6 hours. Now it's happening in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to a large degree, it's not a large change or shift in business model, but really just identifying smaller workflows and saying, okay, where are the kinks in this that you're just not thinking? Well, you're paying someone 40, 50 grand a year, or maybe a media manager 500 a week. And they're kind of just sitting on their hands. And that might not even be the fault of that person. They might be a little under-equipped, ill-equipped, but just kind of coming in with the business knowledge that we've amassed over the past 2, 3 years, and then tying it in with a much more technical knowledge and understanding of the automations really helps.
Yeah.
I'd say one of the bigger things that applies to both small and medium-sized businesses and underserved communities is prepping them to just do their own research. I think building out data funnels, Twitter, YouTube, and all types of research funnels where they are learning about the newest technology and understanding how to use basic tools creates a lot of inspiration for them to start tinkering. What we see with a lot of clients is once we get them tinkering, they're super excited to keep going, right? So all you have to do is get the ball rolling. So with anyone.
Yeah. And also there's a whole new realm from traditional marketing to AI enhanced marketing too. Even if you're using that tool, there's even more tools that on the other end, you're posting to Instagram and then you're going over to post to TikTok, and you're going over to post to YouTube Shorts and then LinkedIn. And if you're really trying to optimize for maximum awareness and potential for virality, you want to have it across those platforms to target your different audience on those different platforms. Now there's AI tools like Metricool that you can actually just schedule a post and have it not just go to Instagram, but Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all these different platforms all at one time. And that's saving you maybe 20, 30 minutes every time you post. You post 5 times a week. You're saving 2.5 hours. So time adds up. And especially if you're trying to be efficient, as a lot of businesses are, it's definitely an efficiency enhancer.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So how do you tailor your services to meet the unique needs of each specific small business community?
So we come in and we really get face to face. That's the biggest thing. Just sitting down and hand holding initially may seem a little bit work intensive, but at least getting 1 or 2 meetings and really just understanding the customer's problems, asking them the right questions to where they can voice their deepest feelings about their need. That's the biggest thing that we start with. We have them explain their business model. If they have a very clear and outlined understanding of their own business model and they can articulate it, that's a great start because then we can ask them to identify where in their funnel they have issues. In terms of how we specifically then attack those issues, a lot of it is simply doing constant research on our end and constant upskilling in the technical sphere so that we can then package a number of different technology stacks or put a customized wrapper on the newest API or simply do a graph rag overlay so that we can figure out a way for them to pull whatever data is most important for them rather than having an office clerk pulling that data. So yeah, that's kind of how we specifically would go about it. We try to tailor the solution because we have so much technology at our fingertips with a lot of no code options, a lot of really easy overlays and plugins now. That building a tech stack, generally, if you have a dev team, front end team, takes very little time. So all you have to do is ask the right questions.
Absolutely. So it's a lot of customer discovery, questioning, surveying, just
Yeah.
learning a lot about their business.
And that's the one thing we usually don't automate. We definitely use a little bit of surveying at the start, but if we have someone that we know is qualified and is very serious, we try to get very hands-on.
Right. I guess thinking more of the larger picture in the next 5 to 10 years, how would you ideally see AI transforming the sort of SMB landscape?
Well, man, 10 years, like, I'd say a lot of small businesses are probably going to go out of business.
Yeah.
If you are not adopting the technology right now and over the next 2 to 3 years, there's a large chance that those who are adopting the technology are going to be more efficient than you, being able to put out more content than you, being able to spend less than you. And there's just a lot of benefit from integrating artificial intelligence into a lot of these workflows. So, almost all small businesses have competitors in their space. And so if those competitors are utilizing this technology, like those are the people that, are going to see their business go from where they are right now to 2xing, 5xing, 10xing in those 10 years. But, there's a whole wave that's coming that a lot of people aren't ready for. So I don't know if you want to talk about agents at all. And
I'd say the biggest change is it might not even be called agents 5 years from now. We don't know, but really agentic data flows where you're allowing a number of LLMs to make overlaid decisions in a really complex way so that they are doing what you want them to do on their own and they don't need oversight. They're working containers, much better safety, bigger models. We're just at a point where the AI has become just almost cognitively AGI, right? We're very fast approaching that. Whether it's 5 years or 10 years, it's happening in that gap. We don't know for sure,
or 3 months.
when the biggest companies are going to kind of put in their hat and say, yeah, we've done it. We've done AGI by whatever definition they want to use and claim general artificial intelligence. But clearly, the data flows are all moving towards continually more independent and operable AI that connect very closely to a human. And that is going to change the entire definition of work because currently humans value work as the time they put in, the unique experience that they bring to the table. But when an AI is as good as the context you give it, and so far, we as humans have decided that we're going to limit the context given to AIs. We're now continually giving it more and more and more data sources. And we as humans have almost all of the data sources that we can absorb in the real world. So the biggest thing that these agentic models are doing is using real world models. We're beginning to allow them to create and collect real world data. For example, a computer vision model, GPT vision. That's you making an active decision to allow your computer webcam to collect visual data of its surrounding world. That was an active decision we made. We're giving it a level of freedom. And the more freedoms you give it, the closer it'll become to a human. The more unique that experience will become for that data set. We're just data sets. We're electricity working in here. This is just another consciousness on another medium that hasn't evolved that far yet.
Do you think that the end user allowing, them to see their environment, do you think that is an active decision? You think that's more subconscious and kind of just like trained? Because if you look at like terms and conditions, right? Like a lot of people are just agree, agree, agree. They don't read any of that. So like, would you say that's an active decision or would that be more like subconscious?
Currently, it's been a lot of subconscious. We're getting to the point where there's a lot of fear of replacement. That is one of the biggest trends we're seeing when you introduce agentic workflows, because people have an innate connection between work and life, at least in most capitalist societies that we see in the West and a lot in other parts of the world. So because that's been established, ownership over your work, because your work is what puts food on the table, that's your whole life, right? And a lot of people have not really seen beyond that yet. So we have a whole world where people will be forced to make an active decision about that. Do I want to give this AI the freedom of ingestion of my world?
Mm.
And then there's the question, is it our world, right?
Mm.
We don't necessarily own the earth, but as a consciousness, do we want to be the dominant consciousness?
I think that's human nature.
Yeah, and there's definitely such a large scale potential for all these things. Like you mentioned, I personally believe AI agents really are the future. And just so all of our listeners and viewers know, Mark and I were recently out in Cambridge at some networking events, and I met some people who are working on a startup to allow these AI agents, as we're calling them currently, to communicate with each other, right? So there really is tons of potential for this to really blow up. And I think we'll see that in the coming years.
Agree.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to have to make that decision, and they're not going to be ready for it. They have to decide if they want AI or they don't.
If they don't,
If they don't, let's see.
we'll see.
Do you think making this active decision to include AI can like augment the human experience or also bring possible downsides?
Depends how you see it. If we were to, as a human race, fully embrace it, we might end up in a Marxist utopia where none of us work. It's like Wall-E, right? We're all playing video games all day.
Just chilling.
And the AI does all the actual work required to sustain survival. And we get most of our energy from the sun. We'd be fine. But I think that that's not how generations of humans see it. They have, again, as I said, that tie to labor. Labor is purpose. And purpose is the most important thing in life. If anyone wants to kind of go into that for the listeners, I'd encourage you to watch Stephen Wolfram of Wolfram Alpha. He has a TED Talk on kind of the theory of the universe and the theory of importance of purpose. And that theory is actually supported by AI's kind of computational proof that if we can continually scale a consciousness like that, the definition of being here on this earth changes, right? And then that's a lot of philosophical questions. But he, at the end, essentially says, if artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence really continue to come to fruition, we as humans will have to completely redefine what our purpose in this universe is. It's a very, very big question that no one really has the answer to yet.
But so as all AI and all of that continues to advance, what advice would you have to small business owners looking to integrate AI into their business?
Learn to build agents as soon as you can. That essentially will create a hedge bet against what is coming. We have we're early players to the agent space, I'd say, just because we try to go to the early builder circles. Even in that sense, as builders, we're late to the game. We're young. There are just builders that are older than us and have been in Silicon Valley longer. These people have been looking at it 4 years ago. Microsoft released AutoGen quite a while ago. The thing is that these large corporations spend money and time to foresee things like this. They saw it coming 10 years ago. As a small business owner, the best thing you can do is reel and hedge. By hedging, I just mean find someone who can build you agents or learn to build agents in no-code frameworks, because that is coming. And all you have to do is type. Use your whatever language you use a language model to help translate for you into code, whatever it is. Most people can now build without any form of code. So get building for your business. That's my message.
I think that's really amazing advice. And thank you, Reese and Spencer,
Yeah,
for
thank
joining
you
us
guys.
today.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's been an amazing discussion.
And
Final thoughts.
what are
Love to
your
hear-
thoughts
What do
about
you
the
guys
business as a whole? You guys have been in the business for a little over 3 weeks now, or what do you think about the overall direction, the mission? Like, what are your, honestly?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we've had an amazing time so far. We love the mission. We've loved working with all the different aspects, right? Because we have this aspect that targets these small to mid-sized businesses, but then we also have sort of the educational side of it. And then in addition to that, we have the minority and underserved community parts of that. And I think all of us would love to collectively see kind of Snap Growth Studios focus maybe a bit more on the social impact part and the minority and underserved community side. And we would love to see how that kind of maybe gets pushed more towards the forefront of it in the coming years.
Yeah, it's definitely a big goal of ours. I mean, there's a lot of grants to be applied to and a lot of funds going up.
A lot of people to talk to, man.
Yeah.
People to talk to.
And thank you guys for helping us build those inroads, do grant writing and applications. Yeah. It's a long process in the public sector and the nonprofit sector.
Yeah. Just move slow.
Anyone, when it's government money,
They move slow.
But it is what it is. You just have to weather the path, right? Stick the path. That's what we say quite a lot. We're 20, so being able to be in this space, we're just super blessed. And thank you guys for being along the ride with us.
I have one more question.
Of course.
What is the biggest lesson you guys have learned throughout this whole process?
For me, I would say to not be scared to pivot in your business model, your company journey, your direction. I think we've honestly changed a little bit in the last 4 weeks since where the company was when we first met you guys. And so I guess just not being scared to change direction and just explore.
We were literally having a conversation about that earlier. A friend has one company. She's probably given 3-4 unique value propositions throughout her time. And it's just, she's doing successful and she's making sales and she's kind of, as an entrepreneur, you always got to stay mobile, stay agile. So
I'd say just like getting out of the classroom, getting away from the whiteboard and just going to and talking to, some of the people who were targeting, in minority communities, small business owners, and just getting their honest evaluation of, just to get inside their heads a little bit. And that whole process of, getting just, market research and, developing our business model to cater to what they're actually thinking, I think is a really insightful process.
That was the biggest goal for you guys to get your hands dirty. I'm really happy you guys got to and that you guys really, grabbed it.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that you think we could do better or we should do better if we were to move on
I would
to
say
other
just
interns in the future?
Narrowing down the business goals. Because like I said before, there's kind of all these different aspects and just figuring out how they can be more merged and integrated into each other so it's not so separate.
That's been our biggest learning. I'd say for us. How do you feel about that? But
no, you're right.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
The biggest thing.
Yeah,
sure. We spent the last year kind of grappling with that as an underlying issue. So it's been really helpful. You guys, Professor Mike, and just really getting more and more perspectives. Really great.
Yeah. And I'd just like to add, I'd say the more, big partnerships like this one you've made at Harvard, which, gave all of us the opportunity to kind of join and give insight on the team, the more, partnerships like those that you can get, that will really be able to boost, your impact and influence for your ultimate goal of helping minority communities. So,
thanks for the advice.
Yeah.
Definitely take it.
Awesome.
But thank you guys.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to episode 1 of The Growth Studio. Please go check out Snap Growth Studios on Instagram, and we hope to have you back next time.